Gentlemen, start your engines.
SETN, the Special Events Television Network, presents the Goodies 500 from the Martinsville Speedway in Virginia. SETN's presentation of the Goodies 500 is brought to you by Goodyear. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by Quaker State, the big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. And by Champion Copper Plus, the spark plug with the extra margin of performance. And by Aluguard. Look for and buy brands containing the Aluguard premium quality antifreeze formula. And by Mr. Goodwrench. No one knows your GM car better than Mr. Goodwrench. No one. And we welcome you to our SETN Broadcast Center here at the Martinsville Speedway. I'm Eli Gold, joined today by Dr. Jerry Punch, a longtime contributor to Motor Racing Network broadcasts. And Jerry, this is a racetrack, Martinsville, which is not only demanding on the driver, because you now have to know how much to lean on the other guy, but also how much you're going to be leaned on. It also puts a premium on the car, how it can survive in a physically demanding race over the course of 500 laps.
Well, a couple of battles today, Eli. Obviously, the battle between the competitors, among the competitors, the framming and bamming we saw a couple of weeks ago at Richmond, Virginia, which destroyed half the field. But you also have to attack the racetrack. Be careful, not use up the car. Be patient. Be very patient and very careful of the all-important brakes here, which are important to keep the car slowed down on these two tough drag strips we call straightaways.
A number of drivers have had much success here at Martinsville over the year. A man who won his very first Winston Cup race here is on the pole for today's Goodies 500. He's Jeff Bodine.
For the 8th time in 1986, the pole sitter in a Winston Cup event is Jeff Bodine. But winning here today is more than just having the fastest car, isn't it, Jeff? This is really a race of attrition.
It sure is. You can have the fastest car and go out real quick if you use the car up too fast. Brakes, engine, RPM, we have to really watch that. The sheet metal. This is really one tough race, and it's really a survival race, an endurance race.
We've got a warm afternoon here at Martinsville. It'll be a true test of drivers and their equipment. We've got 500 laps in store at the Goodies 500.
Jeff Bodine's 8th pole of the year. 6 of those have been record runs, Eli. 6 records for Bodine and the Levi Garrett Chevrolet.
But at the same time, starting on the pole for Jeff Bodine has not necessarily been a harbinger of good news this year.
It hasn't been. His wife, Kathy, thinks that the pole is a jinx for Jeff. He says the pole has been there 7 times. He has yet to win a race from the pole. His best finished 3rd twice this year.
Well, behind Jeff Bodine, there are 29 other drivers set to go in the Goodies 500 here at Martinsville today. Again, it's a warm day, a packed house, and as soon as we come back, we'll let you meet today's starting lineup for the Goodies 500 from Martinsville. Back at Martinsville Speedway, they've just fired the engines. We'll be taking you to trackside in seconds for the start of the Goodies 500. The points battle still a 3-way battle atop the heap as Dale Earnhardt leads Tim Richmond and Darrell Waltrip at this juncture with some 5 races to go. Yet there's another man who deserves talking of at this juncture, Jerry Punch, and that's Bobby Allison. He's won everything that NASCAR has to offer, but not at this racetrack.
No, he hasn't. He started 40 times. It'll be his 41st start today. He's yet to win at Martinsville, Virginia.
The field now beginning to roll down pit road as we're set to get going for the Goodies 500. It's going to be quite an afternoon of racing. Again, the temperatures will be a factor, Jerry. But as they get set to go, let's meet the starting lineup. We've already heard from the pole sitter, Jeff Bodine, a new Winston Cup qualifying record here at Martinsville, 90.599 miles an hour. And sharing the front row with Jeff Bodine, driving the Wrangler Chevrolet, Dale Earnhardt of Kannapolis, North Carolina, his Chevy at 90.516 miles an hour.
Eli, row 2 will have the hottest thing on the Winston Cup Tour, Tim Richmond's Folgers Coffee Chevrolet, starting 3rd at 90.159 miles per hour. Richmond 6 wins in the last 11 starts on the Tour. He'll be flanked by Darrell Waltrip, car number 11, the Budweiser Chevrolet, qualifying at 90.141 miles per hour. Waltrip, a 7-time winner here at Martinsville. He'll start 4th today, hoping for win number 8.
The third row has Harry Gant in the Skoal Bandit Chevrolet, 89.906 miles an hour. Harry starts inside of row 3, and alongside him will be Dave Marcus, an original native of Wausau, Wisconsin, now from Avery's Creek, North Carolina. A fine qualifying run for the Helen Ray Special.
Young Kyle Petty has the Wood Brothers car, the Citgo 711 Ford, inside row 4 in 7th spot, 89.757 miles per hour, his qualifying run. Beside him, Rusty Wallace, the Aluard Pontiac, picking up his first win earlier in the year up at Bristol International Raceway. Wallace qualifying at 89.651 miles per hour.
The 9th starter is Bobby Allison, winning this year at the Winston 500, but as Jerry mentioned earlier, yet to win in a Winston Cup car here at Martinsville in his illustrious career. And in starting spot number 10, Ricky Rudd, the Motorcraft Ford Thunderbird, a native of Virginia from Chesapeake, driving for Bud Moore. That's the top 10 so far, and on further back as the field begins to take shape. Row number 6, Mike Waltrip and Alan Kulwicki, the champion Sparkplug rookie contenders there side by side. Neil Bonnet and Terry Labonte in row number 7.
Row 8 has Bill Elliott yet looking for his first short track Winston Cup win. He'll be flanked by Morgan Shepherd, a winner here back in 1981. Row 9 has Joe Ruttman, who finished 2nd here back in April, and 15-time winner Richard Petty.
Tommy Ellis from Richmond, Virginia, and Bobby Hillen Jr., the winner of the Talladega 500 in row 10. The 11th row, Kenny Schrader, and Ridgeway, Virginia's Jimmy Hensley.
Row 12, Martinsville native Buddy Arrington in the number 67. He's flanked by Eddie Bierswell in the Wins Kmart Oldsmobile. Row 13 has Mike Skinner and Jimmy Means.
The 14th row, Jerry Cranmer, a modified driver in the car normally campaigned by James Hilton, then J.D. McDuffie, D.K. Ulrich, and Phil Good rounding out the 30-car starting field. And that brings us to the question, who wins, Jerry Punch, the aggressive driver today or the one who kind of lays back and hopes to survive?
I think you look at who won last year here, Eli. Dale Earnhardt's the defending champion of the Goodies 500. He's not a driver to lay back. He's very aggressive. He will attack the racetrack and anything gets in his way. So look for Dale Earnhardt to be awfully tough today.
So that's the story. Driver control, car reliability. It's all coming up. The Goodies 500 from Martinsville, the green flag as soon as we return. Back with you at the Martinsville Speedway with Jerry Punch and Dick Berggren. I'm Eli Gold. The green flag is out and the Goodies 500 is underway. And from the outside groove, Dale Earnhardt trying to make the inside move to beat Bodine to turn number 1. But the pole sitter, Jeff Bodine, holding him off as the field gets through the corner cleanly. And the drag stretch down that back straightaway shows the battle for the lead. Bodine in the Levi Garrett Chevrolet. Inside of car number 3, Dale Earnhardt in the Wrangler Chevrolet. And now there's trouble quickly. Mike Skinner, Eddie Bierswall, and Jerry Cranmer all spinning as they work their way into the corner. And very quickly, Jerry Punch, Martinsville is living up to its reputation.
It's really a tight racetrack, Eli. Not a lot of room for passing. You get on the outside, you can get hung out to dry. Is what's happened there between Bierswall and Jerry Cranmer. Here's the Bierswall car that the Kmart Wins Oldsmobiles were under caution here at Martinsville for the first time this afternoon.
Eddie Bierswall is carrying our SETN C-Cam. Let's watch the spin from inside. Looked as though he might have gotten tagged from the rear because it was clear sailing in front of him. As there you see is pointing in the wrong direction with D.K. Ulrich going past him. Got to be a strange feeling.
Really is. You see him going into turn 1 and the car suddenly jerked to the right and he tried to hang on. There's not a lot of room. He was lucky he didn't get tagged worse on that first spin.
So this first caution flag getting set to wind its way down now. They will go 3 laps under caution. There's the race leader, Dale Earnhardt. Jeff Bodine in car number 5 second, Tim Richmond third, Darrell Waltrip in the 11 is fourth, and Dave Marcus in car 71. Boy, has he been running well here of late. He's in the 5th position, is on the restart. It's quickly Earnhardt getting through the gearbox in a hurry, but a good battle for second place as Tim Richmond moves inside of Jeff Bodine.
Richmond moves inside Bodine. He'll try to nudge him to the outside. The field pretty much single file as they file their way through turns 1 and 2 and come back down the back straightaway. And the battle up front, Earnhardt really pulling away now. 3 or 4 car lengths of those 2 Hendrick cars battle.
He's a master on the restarts. Earnhardt is, be it on the short track such as this one here at Martinsville or the super speedways. That battle for second spot. Bodine has it for the moment as there. Dale Earnhardt gets around this racetrack in a hurry. And even though the average lap speeds, Jerry, are in the 90-mile-an-hour range in that qualifying session, To average that on a racetrack such as this, as flat as it is, straightaway speeds are well in excess of 115, 120 miles an hour.
I think they would approach 120 miles an hour at the midpoint of the front or the back straightaway. It's really horsepower track. You got to get off the corners. It's mainly a one groove track in the turns. If you can out drag someone out of the corner, you may have a shot at getting by. It's a tough track to pass on, though.
Everybody basically single file, as you see. Chasing that man, Dale Earnhardt, currently atop the Winston Cup points. There'll be 5 races to go with the running of today's Goody's 500.
Earnhardt has 3 wins this year, and he's won at Darlington, Wilkesboro, and Charlotte. So he really hasn't been run that well here at Martinsville in the past, but he would like to pick up a win today, picking up where he left off last year as he won the Goody's 500 a year ago.
Take a look at the racetrack as we work our way through the turns. You see a concrete inside groove, and then your basic asphalt to the outside. And that is something that's unique to the Martinsville Speedway. Clay Earls, who owns this beautiful racetrack, trying to get the extra grab to that track without the asphalt wearing itself away. There was a good battle there moments ago. You saw Morgan Shepherd making a move up, but again at the point, still single file all the way back through 15th position. One other thing about the Martinsville Speedway is, again, the field works their way down. You'll notice that curbing. You see a yellow curb right there on the inside most portion of the racetrack, separating the grass from the racing surface. Many times you'll see cars get up over that curbing, and well, that can really upset things.
It really can make a serious day for you. Cause a lot of problems to the handling of the car. And if you can hug that inside curbing going into turn 1 or diving into 3, you absolutely can shut the door on anyone trying to get around you.
Jeff Bodine. There's the interval from Bodine in second to the leader, Dale Earnhardt. What a magnificent day for racing here. As you can see, not a seat to be had anywhere. This event was sold out early today. As a matter of fact, Clay Earls, the owner of the track, was walking around. He put on an old hat and it said sold out. He had a little old sign tacked to the hat. It said sold out, no tickets remaining. There's the battle for 3rd and 4th. Tim Richmond in the 25, Waltrip in the 11, Dave Marcus in that orange and white car, number 71, and then Rusty Wallace in the 5th position in the Alucard Pontiac. Michael Waltrip there, the red card, sandwiched between the 44 of Labonte and the 43 of Richard Petty. Michael Waltrip currently in a tight battle for champion Sparkplug Rookie of the Year honors with Alan Kulwicki.
He trails Allen by 11 points, but he was the fastest second-round qualifier here at Martinsville in that Dick Bear Hawaiian Punch Pontiac. He's looking for a good top 10 finish. He needs one. He's been awfully close, but has yet to get a top 10 finish this year on the Winston Cup Tour.
The green car on your screen, that's Joe Ruttman. He won't be back in this ride next year. Morgan Shepherd will be aboard the 26 car. There from the back window, the view from Eddie Beerswall's car with our C-Cam. Beerswall about to be lapped by the car right you see there out of the rear view mirror, or out of the rear window, I should say. That's Dale Earnhardt, a testimony to how well he's getting around this racetrack.
And now you can see what happens from inexperience now as Earnhardt makes a move and goes around Beerswell. You see a good shot of how strong Earnhardt's car. He's hugging that inside groove right against that yellow curbing. Now the car drifts out. He gets hard on the throttle and tries to out-drag the field down the backstretch.
Going past Phil Good, moving past Jerry Cranmer. There's that 3rd place battle. Tim Richmond on the 25. Darrell Waltrip taking a bit of a higher or wider turn. And you saw a little smoke from the right rear of Waltrip's cars. Those tires smoked just a bit coming off the corner.
Well, those two drivers, not only, there's a little smoke out of the Buddy Arrington car, the Martinsville native, showing a lot of smoke out of the panel nits for it.
Tough break for Buddy. Again, as Jerry said, he is locally. He's from right here, his shop just up the road a piece from the Speedway. And he will oftentimes save some money so he can run particularly well here at Martinsville. Earlier in the year, he was up in the top 5 for a good part of the afternoon before mechanical woes. And again, the problem there, Buddy Arrington. Dick Berggren will be checking on that situation shortly. Dick covering activity on pit road for us here today at the Goody's 500. 500 laps around this racetrack. Remember, 3,700-pound stock cars with those turns as tight as you see them, and the traffic, which already is becoming a factor, and that puts a premium on braking.
Here's Buddy Arrington in the pits, and Joey Arrington, his son, and the rest of the panel nits crew will go to work on that car. You see the DK Ulrich car being pushed back behind the wall, and there's the battle up front.
The leader is Earnhardt. Bodine is 2nd. Tim Richmond 3rd. Darrell Waltrip is 4th. 5th is Dave Marcus as we continue at Martinsville for the Goody's 500. Back at Martinsville Speedway, still Dale Earnhardt showing the way here in the Goodies 500. I'm Eli Gold with Dr. Jerry Punch and Dr. Dick Berggren. Without a doctor in front of my name, it's amazing I'm even here working with you.
What an afternoon, Eli, for Dale Earnhardt. He's picked up where he left off a year ago, leading here and the Goodies 500. He won last year from 11th place start, and only he and Darrell Waltrip in the lead lap at the end. But right now, he's getting a little bit of a challenge from the pole sitter, Jeff Bodine.
Bodine and the Levi Garrett Chevrolet chasing the Chevrolet of Dale Earnhardt. Again, the factor is here, you can chase a man down, but how hard do you want to chase him down? As we watch Tommy Ellis, Joe Ruttman, and Neil Bonnet work the corners, how hard do you want to chase a man down, and then how hard do you have to abuse the brakes to slow down a 3,700-pound stock car?
They really have these cars geared quite low here. They really twist and turn these engines quite high RPM. Some say close to 7,800, maybe 8,000 RPMs. Whoa,
trouble in turn two.
And that's Tim Richmond, one of the top qualifiers. Richmond, one of the hottest things on the Winston Cup Tour, has tagged the concrete retaining wall. Looks to have a right front tire down as he limps his way up the back straightaway. He'll try to make his way to pit road, and Harry Hyde and the Folgers crew will be there to service the car. Yeah, this Richmond, the tire is down on the rim. He is on the inside making that turn, left-hand turn, down pit road.
Richmond had been running in 5th position in an ongoing battle between himself, Darrell Waltrip, and Rusty Wallace for position. And this is going to bring out the second caution flag of the afternoon.
And just about a tag on pit road as Earnhardt got boxed in behind Richmond, had to make the move to the right to go around Richmond. There's Bodine, Earnhardt, and Richmond. Those three cars pitting as they will be a routine pit stop, and they're trying to pick the car up, the Folgers Chevrolet. Now they have the jack underneath it, and they will remove that right front tire, or what's left of it. And there's Harry Hyde standing there with a big pair of channel lock pliers to pull away some of the sheet metal that may have been crimped. Apparently minimal damage on that car. You see a little bit of sheet metal as Hyde kicks that tire in frustration, and Richmond's car will try to squeeze out of the pits as we see Earnhardt's car has already exited, as has Bodine's.
56 laps into the event. Car 17, Eddie Beerswall, the Kmart Wins oil car carrying our SETN C-Cam. Right behind him, that yellow and black car, was Alan Kulwicki, currently in that battle with Michael Waltrip for Champion Spark Plug Rookie of the Year honors. It's amazing anybody gets anything done in that mess of people down there.
It is really tight, particularly on the short tracks. They have a little more room here at Martinsville than they have on a lot of short tracks, just fairly well spaced. And now Richmond's car seems to stall coming off the jacks. He now pulls the car back on the speedway.
At the time of the caution flag, the race is averaging 78.703 miles an hour. There from inside the Eddie Beerswall Oldsmobile, Roger Hamby and the crew servicing car number 17. Earnhardt was leading at the caution flag. Bodine second, Waltrip third. Fourth was Tim Richmond, who brought out the caution. Fifth was Rusty Wallace, Harry Gant sixth. Seventh was Kyle Petty. Eighth was Dave Micus. Ninth, Bobby Allison. And 10th was the Raymock car, the Nationwide Pontiac for Morgan Shepherd.
And the NASCAR official stopping the Eddie Beerswall car. He must wait and fall in line behind the field as you exit pit road, and the safety car has the leaders in tow. You must take your position in line at the rear of the field.
Mike Skinner, the only car officially out of the event, number 19, engine failure. The reason putting him behind the wall as we get set for the start. The cars on the inside lane, the 9 of Bill Elliott, the 25 of Tim Richmond, and on back Joe Ruttman. They are a lap down. The leader is that orange and white car, number 5 for Jeff Bodine, and he quickly gets a good start and keeps Elliott and the rest of that inside line back behind him, and they remain a lap in arrears to the race leader.
It'll be interesting to see now if Bodine can pull away, as apparently Bill Elliott has been able to pull up, as has Tim Richmond, and put a couple of cars between the leader, which is Bodine, and Dale Earnhardt.
Morgan Shepherd had good pit service. He now tucks in, as you see, 5th in line, but is actually 3rd on the scoreboard. As those cars between Bodine and Earnhardt are a lap down, Bill Elliott and Tim Richmond.
And Joe Ruttman makes a move up in the Quaker State Buick. Ruttman, who finished second here back in April, has a good run on these half-mile tracks. He finished second up at Richmond, Virginia, second here, and is looking for another top 5 finish, although that ride will no longer be there next year for him. He's hoping to maybe put something together with Cliff Stewart for a ride for 87.
After that caution flag, Dave Marcus dropped out of the top 10. He's now running in the 15th position. But I'll tell you, Marcus, Jerry, has really had some fine runs, actually starting back at Dover, Delaware not long ago.
He really did. In fact, he has changed engine builders. He now has Mike Fryer building engines for his Helen Ray Special Chevrolets. He had a 5th place finish in the Delaware 500 last week. He has a good run, a good qualifying effort here at Martinsville. He hopes maybe to pick up a win before the season ends with that new engine development program with Mike Fryer on board.
Bill Elliott in car number 9 is not second in the race. He is second in line. 25, Tim Richmond, is also a lap down. So the leader is car 5. You see there on your screen, Jeff Bodine. Second in the race is the yellow and blue car, just pivoting into your screen. Car number 3, Dale Earnhardt.
You know, Bill Elliott's trying to sort of redeem himself. Back in April here in the Sovereign Bank 500, he was the first car to exit here at Martinsville. He blew an engine on lap 42, the first engine expiration it had in over 3 years, and he would like to finish, not only finish today, he'd like to have a good top 10 run on the short track.
Joe Ruttman in the Quaker State Buick, car number 26. Trying to hang as tight as he can, although he too is a lap down. Harry Gant now beginning to rumble. Car 33, the Skold Bandit, but still it's Jeff Bodine showing the way. And especially on a short track, when you're in front, it's far more of an advantage than sometimes even on the super speedways, because with traffic normally being a factor on a short track, if you're in front, you can set the pace, you can pick and choose exactly where to go, again, without having to overly abuse your car.
You really can. You can run the car as hard as you want to. You can back off, let the gearing slow the car down, and not have to use the brakes up. Now you see Joe Ruttman trying to make a move on Earnhardt. Earnhardt awfully strong early, but he realizes that lap traffic is there in front of him. And it's not just lap traffic, it's the likes of Tim Richmond and Bill Elliott. And even if you're much quicker than a car at Martinsville, it may take you 25 or 30 laps to pass, much less a car that's almost as fast as you are, like what Earnhardt is dealing with in front of him.
Amazing how close to the wall they get here, coming off turn numbers 3 and 4. Field really swings to the outside. There's Darrell Waltrip and Kyle Petty. The Chevrolet and the Ford Thunderbird. Earnhardt now in car number 3. He's had enough of race traffic. He tries to get around both Bill Elliott in the 9 and Tim Richmond. He'll get by Elliott, but he sees Jeff Bodine beginning to pull away just a bit now. And that's enough for Earnhardt to try and make his move towards the front.
You have to wonder, Earnhardt, trying to hold on to that point lead and would not be overly aggressive and try to save the car, but he's pushing it toward the front again.
Bodine continues to lead. Dale Earnhardt is second. Third now is Morgan Shepherd. Harry Gant is fourth. Fifth is Rusty Wallace. Sixth belongs to Darrell Waltrip. Seventh is Kyle Petty. Richard Petty is eighth. Ninth is the 15 car for Ricky Rudd up into the top 10. And 10th is Bobby Allison as we continue from Martinsville. From inside the Eddie Beerswall Oldsmobile, that's the view of the Goodies 500 unfolding here at the Martinsville Speedway. With Jerry Punch and Dick Berggren, I'm Eli Gold. Jeff Bodine showing that he at this moment has the race lead. Dale Earnhardt relegated back to the second spot by virtue of that most recent caution flag. Morgan Shepherd, Harry Gant, and Rusty Wallace still rounding out your top 5.
And apparently Gary Nelson and the crew really have got that Levi Garrett Chevrolet dialed in as Bodine now really starting to pull away a little bit. The car drifting up in the middle groove. Here comes Earnhardt and Ruttman. That's a battle back for second spot, but they're a good maybe 10, 12 car lengths back from the leader, Bodine.
Joe Ruttman, who has been gamely trying to get back on the lead lap here all afternoon, still caught up in race traffic, but Bodine for the moment has things hooked up. And he continues through this. Trouble off turn number 4. Trouble for Dale Earnhardt. He had been running in the second spot. Looked as though he caught that curbing we had been talking about earlier, Jerry. He's coming down pit road. There is caution on the speedway.
And his crew will probably motion him on through because the caution car has not come on the track yet, and he will lose a lap if he stops right now because the field needs to get slowed down. He is back on the track in turn 1. Eli, smart move for Richard Childress and his crew to keep him on the racetrack.
Heck of a move at this juncture of the event. At Martinsville, you can go down a lap in a hurry if you make, of course, your stop incorrectly before the caution car has slowed the field down. You could lose a lap in a heartbeat, and now Earnhardt coming back in with everybody else to get service from the crew.
Everyone in the pits, and here's Kirk Shelberdine and the Wrangler crew taking the right front tire off. They will change 2 tires. Now on a short track, under caution even, you probably only change 2 tires at a time. If you stay longer in the pits, the safety car can actually lap you on pit road. So we'll see Earnhardt's Wrangler Chevrolet and probably the Folgers car. Here's Bodine, the Alucard Pontiac of Rusty Wallace, all moving back on the speedway. They will come back in for 2 more tires next time by.
Good service by Travis Carter and the crew for Harry Gant. He gets off pit road first. Earnhardt is coming back in. You have to guess for left side tires.
Earnhardt back in on pit road again for his second stop. They had changed the right side tires on his automobile, and now they're going to change the left side tires. He had certainly been running well enough to win before he had the problem with the pit road bumper. Now with 4 fresh tires on the car, he should be be all right, ready to go back into the hunt again.
A little more debris on the back straightaway.
I tell you, they beat and bang so much on these short tracks, you'd be surprised. You'll see all kinds of car parts, bumper pieces, pieces of sheet metal, chassis parts, anything from the car that can be knocked loose will come off and will find its way on the racetrack here on the short tracks.
This third caution flag of the afternoon, slowing the average speed to 72.803 miles an hour. Talk about beating and banging. Richard Petty looking for the front end of his Pontiac.
And just about got tagged on pit road as Petty tries to get that STP Pontiac to a stop. And now George Caldwell and the crew, Dale Inman, will try to tape that nose piece into position as Petty, the winningest driver here at Martinsville Speedway, 15 victories, gets his service under caution.
Harry Gant leads after this caution stop. Morgan Shepherd came out in second. Good work by Bob Rahilly, Butch Mock, and the crew. Bobby Allison third in line. Fourth will be Darrell Waltrip and Rusty Wallace hanging around the top five. He is fifth. Sixth is Jeff Bodine, Ricky Rudd seventh. Eighth is Kyle Petty, Neil Bonnet ninth, and Terry Labonte 10th as the safety car peels down pit road. And Harry Gant leads that charge back to the green from Harold Kinder.
And Tim Richmond, who's trying to regain some of that lost momentum earlier on from that costly tag with the wall inside of Harry Gant, trying to get that lap back as the field now moving up. There's Bodine moving on the side of Mike Waltrip, the young driver, but moving back toward the front of the line. The battle is Richmond has gone around Harry Gant.
So Tim Richmond getting himself back on the lead lap. Morgan Shepherd now in that white car with the yellow and black striping moving inside of Harry Gant in a bid for the lead here at Martinsville. Morgan Shepherd, a very successful driver here. He gets by Gant, so too Bobby Allison. So Harry Gant getting shuffled through the corner, losing a number of positions. And Allison now the car in the move as he, again, tries to hang on to that spot inside of Gant.
We mentioned Bobby Allison has run 40 times. This is his 41st start here at Martinsville Speedway. He has never won. He's finished second 6 times. He came closest to victory in his very first start back in 1966. He was leading with 5 laps to go, and the engine blew on his Chevrolet.
Field stringing through off the corner. Darrell Waltrip hounding away on Harry Gant. There's that battle. The 11 car of Waltrip. Rusty Wallace in the 27. Bodine in car number 5. Jeff taking a higher line. Not nearly as low to the inside as he was earlier, but he's still able to hold everybody else back at bay.
Looks like Ricky Rudd starting to make his move in the Motorcraft Ford. Rudd has been running awfully well this year. He won the race earlier in the year here at Martinsville. He won last week up in Dover, Delaware. This is the car that dominated at Richmond a few weeks ago prior to an encounter with a concrete wall.
Morgan Shepherd, your race leader. The Folgers car, Tim Richmond, is on the tail end of the lead lap. So he is basically a full lap down to that car, the Nationwide Pontiac.
And what a job Morgan Shepherd has done in that car. Shepherd, a previous winner here at Martinsville. He won back in 1981 in the Cliff Stewart car in his rookie season on the Winston Cup Tour. So Shepherd, no stranger to this racetrack and running up front here today.
Morgan Shepherd got married at this racetrack.
He sure did, and that's the ride that'll be assumed by Neil Bonnet for next year in the Raymock team.
Little smoke there from the Shepherd car as he came through turns 3 and 4. At the moment, everybody kind of feeling each other out. There, Rusty Wallace and Jeff Bodine go to the inside of Harry Gant, while Bobby Allison in the 22 and Darrell Waltrip in the 11 make moves. Waltrip, he is bit by bit been moving up after the restart a handful of laps ago.
These two cars get together in turn 4. Waltrip and Allison have a little bumper tag. You talk about a battle on a short track. This is an all-out war as caution now being shown. Debris on the speedway, and take a look at the battle here. Back to the caution flag. Rusty Wallace on the inside, Waltrip on the outside. Here is Allison in the lead of that pack. Look at the front end of the Budweiser Chevrolet. It has been blunted some 6, maybe 8 inches in as they have caught the rear deck of the Miller Buick. Here's the caution flag from Harold Kinder.
No subtleties at a short track when you try and pull your way towards the front. Bobby Allison will lead it under caution, 4th time today, and there is the debris that brought out the caution flag. Waltrip and Allison just pulled up alongside each other there, you see, and how'd you like to be a fly on the wall of that one?
I would like to hear the discussion. I imagine they use hand or maybe even finger signals back and forth to discuss what's been going on, but that's all short track racing.
It is the 4th caution flag of the afternoon. We are still fairly early in the Goodies 500. Don't you go away. SETN's coverage continues with an update on pit stops as soon as we return to the Martinsville Speedway. Back under green flag racing, there's Darrell Waltrip with that beating and banging on the front end. You wonder how that's going to affect the airflow to cool the engine here today, Jerry.
It's an awfully warm day in Martinsville, and they've got to get air through the radiator, so you got to be concerned. Already we've had some cars register overheating problems early in the race, and there's a long way to go here at Martinsville.
DK Ulrich has a problem. Morgan Shepherd has just retired his car. Let's go to Dick Bergman with Waltrip's crew chief with that question.
Well, Jeff Hammond, there's a lot of front-end damage on your car. What's happening to the temperature gauge right now?
Well, right now it's kind of hard to say. We know we knocked the headlight door down. It's bigger than the front nose of the car, but hopefully it hasn't restricted any airflow into the radiator or the oil cooler. We've told Darrell to watch the temperatures real close. So hopefully by being out front, we get a lot of fresh air, and it won't be quite as important as if we were running back behind several cars. So we're going to kind of play it by ear. Hopefully we'll get a caution flag another 30, 40 laps. We need tires. We're going to come in and kind of open everything up and give it a once-over. But right now he's watching the temperature gauges. We're in contact with him. Everything seems to be okay.
It's a hot enough day here at Martinsville. You sure don't want to have any air closed off either to the cooler or to the radiator. Darrell Waltrip's going to have to watch his gauges very carefully for the rest of the afternoon.
Dick Bergman looks nice and comfortable down there. From inside Eddie Bierswall's car, the Wind Oil Kmart machine. There's the C-Cam with a look at the field in front.
And you see how difficult traffic is to maneuver through there. Heavy traffic. Here is Waltrip and Bodine. Darrell Waltrip seems to be handling flawlessly now as he hugs the inside groove. And there's Bodine, Joe Ruttman and the crew back there. Bobby Hillen having a good run. A young driver hoping to have a good finish on the short track.
And now Bodine makes a move to the inside of Darrell Waltrip as Bodine wants to grab the lead here in Martinsville. Side by side through the corner, all the way to the outside wall goes Waltrip.
Two excellent short track competitors. Jeff Bodine, 37 years of age, Waltrip 39, and here's Ruttman, the veteran back there, trying to make it a three-way battle.
He who takes the inside move oftentimes gets the lead. You just have to outdive the other guy into turn numbers 1 or 3. And Bodine now begins to pull away. Waltrip can't quite keep the car on the low side of the racetrack.
His car slipping up in that middle groove, and that's the opening that Ruttman wanted. And Ruttman, who runs this track so well, had a second-place finish here back in April. He would like to maybe improve on that by 1 spot today.
That blue car, fourth in line, Rusty Wallace. Now moving well up into the top 5 in third position. Rusty has run well on the short tracks. There's Wallace trailing Darrell Waltrip. Rusty has a win earlier this year at Bristol, which I guess is about as far from this type of a short track as you can get. Bristol is the same size around, but it has turns that are banked higher than those at Daytona or Talladega. This is your basically flat short track.
Well, Rusty Wallace has over 200 victories on the short tracks in ASA and All-Pro competition as the 1983 ASA national champion before he came on the circuit in Winston Cup competition. So he's certainly no stranger to the short track. But right now, it looks like Jeff Bodine is starting to pull away a little bit.
The leaders just went past Phil Good, an occasional campaigner on the Winston Cup Tour. But Bodine has it hooked up right now. And what a year it has been for the Hendrick Motorsports team. Bodine is staying put next year, but car 26, you saw Joe Ruttman, he's leaving, and there's Richard Petty. Look, the right rear is down. The right rear is gone on Richard Petty's car. That front end damage, Jerry, we told you he sustained earlier, but the right rear is down on Richard Petty's STP Pontiac and an unscheduled pit stop coming up here.
It will be. It'll cost the 7-time Winston Cup champion. He skitters through his pits and just gets the car stopped. They will come up and try to service the car. They have got the hoses up. They will try to pick the car up and get a jack under it, but what a tough break for Richard Petty. They backed the car up now, getting into the pits. That's costing him valuable time under green flag conditions.
One thing about Winston Cup racing, if you're the body man on any team after a short track race, that is what you call job security. These guys are going to have some work to do tomorrow.
Your job is secure if you're a body man on the Winston Cup car on any track nowadays. They even rub a little bit at Talladega at over 200 miles an hour.
Meanwhile, Bobby Allison, car 22 to the outside of Dale Earnhardt in car number 3. Again, into turn number 3 they go, and Earnhardt will come out with the position right there. So Dale Earnhardt. And look what's hanging from the right front of Bobby Allison's car.
Looks like he shaved a little bit of sheet metal off someone's car. Looks remotely like that blue from the rear of the Earnhardt car. Now, we're not saying they got together possibly, but didn't bother anyone. And there again is Waltrip. The nose piece of that car blunted somewhat.
How tough is it to control a race car when a tire has gone flat? Dick Bergman is standing by on pit road, and he is caught up with that flat tire from Richard Petty's car.
This smoking Hulk here used to be a race car tire on the right rear of Richard Petty's automobile. What's happened here is his brakes have generated so much temperature that it actually melted the rubber carcass. Why so much temperature? Richard Petty is trying some experimental brakes here at Martinsville, brakes that are ordinarily used in road racing. To my knowledge, nobody's ever tried brakes that effective here. Well, they definitely slow the car down, but they generate a lot of heat too, as Richard Petty just found out.
What we'll be seeing later on as these cars come in, the brakes get so hot that the crews will be spraying water, taking hoses and spraying water on the wheel to try to cool the brakes down.
They run extra duct work to the wheel and brakes to try and cool them off, but I think it was Dave Marcus who told me last time we were here at Martinsville is again there is caution on the speedway. Debris is on the racetrack again. There's that piece of debris. Dave Marcus said we can put people on the moon, but why? We can't get a set of brakes that'll work here at Martinsville, Virginia. Time for everybody to make pit stops.
Heavy congestion on pit road. We see the work being finished there. And now Earnhardt back on the speedway. We're getting a shot out the window that wins Oldsmobile for Eddie Bierswell.
And we will continue from Martinsville on the Goodies 500 right after this. The lights are out atop the safety car, and a quick look shows that Dale Earnhardt is not on the racing surface, Jerry, but Richard Childress and Kirk Shelmerdine have taken the car behind the wall for repairs.
They couldn't afford to take a chance. Earnhardt had been showing a lot of smoke, and they thought he might be leaking some fluid in the rear end. You remember when he spun earlier? Here's Earnhardt back on the speedway. When he spun earlier, he tagged that curbing, and they have a leak in the rear end. I think they're going to have to replace that rear end seal and try to stop the leak before the rear end burns up, and they have to bring him in for 40 or 50 laps and replace the whole rear end.
Now it's the Alucard Pontiac, that blue car number 27 for Rusty Wallace, showing the way here at Martinsville on the restart. Joe Ruttman right behind him. High line for Neil Bonnet. I'll tell you, this is a racetrack where you can catch the wrong line. And right behind him, Eddie Bierswell spins.
And Bierswell keeps the car, just nudges the wall on the backstretch as the field goes by. He now will back the car up. The Kmart wins Oldsmobile from Roger Hamby's stable. Will get routed back in the correct direction. He puts it back in low gear, and caution again being shown here to the field.
This is the 7th caution flag of the afternoon. Eddie is carrying our in-car camera, the C-Cam. And I think we're going to get here shortly, if we can, an awfully fine look at exactly what happens there. Eddie from San Antonio, Texas. He's quite a race driver in his own neighborhood, and watch this here.
Here's a sensation of what happens when a car starts to go around. He's on the outside, suddenly he's facing the inside, he's facing the wrong way now. Smoke fills the windshield, and when the smoke clears, here comes 20 race cars down looking at you in the face. He tries to get the car righted, but fortunately he keeps the car down against the wall as he backs it up, turns it back around, faces the backstretch pit area, and heads it back in the right direction.
So Eddie Bierswell putting us under caution for the 7th time today. And here's Neil Bonnet on pit road, Tim Brewer in the crew. Remember, we saw Neil go awfully wide off turn number 2, and they're going to tend to the tires right here, taking advantage of 4 tires stop on that caution flag.
And they are cooling, spraying water in the front, that radiator hose, that big hose piece extension from one of the pit members behind the wall, trying to rinse off the radiator and keep it as cool as possible. A break for Neil Bonnet. He apparently had a tire going down, and he was losing time. This caution flag would be a break for him.
They estimate 38,000 fans here today. That's the word we get from the Martinsville Speedway officials. Largest crowd for this event here at Martinsville, or any event for that matter, as quickly we are back under green, and still Rusty Wallace shows the way. Bodine is currently in the 2nd spot. 3rd is Kyle Petty. Ricky Rudd goes in 4th. Harry Gaddis 5th. After this caution flag, Kenny Schrader running in the 6th spot with Tommy Ellis 7th. 8th belongs to Darrell Waltrip. 9th would be Bobby Allison, Terry Labonte 10th, Dave Marcus 11th, and Tim Richmond back there in the 12th position after this most recent caution flag.
And now Rusty Wallace, a 30-year-old Valley Park, Missouri driver, has asserted himself and put the Alucard Pontiac up front, but he's getting a fierce challenge from the Quaker State car out of the Kenny Bernstein stable of Joe Ruttman.
Ruttman is tough on the short tracks. Heck, when he ran USAC years ago, he was awfully tough on the short tracks, both on the asphalt and the dirt.
I tell you, it's hard to believe Ruttman will not be back in this ride next year, because he has done a tremendous job for this team. They have had some engine trouble throughout the year. They've changed engine builders a time or two, and now it seems like they're going to put Morgan Shepherd, who's a super race car driver in his own. Shepherd will be in that car next year, and Ruttman, well, the rumor is he may hook up with Cliff Stewart for a team for 87.
Dick Bergman is standing by in the Dale Earnhardt pits with car owner Richard Childress to talk about that rear end problem. Dick?
Well, Richard Childress, you guys put a lot of work into Dale Earnhardt's car. Has the fix worked, or are you still leaking oil?
I think we still might have a little bit of a leak. We'll probably have to put a little more in it later on tonight to keep burning the gear out. Something happened, throw the gasket out. We don't know what happened.
Tough break for Earnhardt and his crew here this afternoon in Martinsville.
There from Eddie Bierswall's car, we see race leader Rusty Wallace going by in the Aluguard Pontiac. I'll tell you, this points chase is not at all over. Ooh, look at Earnhardt really hanging out off the corner, and you see Jeff Bodine right behind him, directing some traffic.
He's signaling Eddie Bierswall to watch out because he thought Earnhardt might lose it and they have to get on the brakes very quickly, and that's a good way to signal drivers behind you so they don't ram into you and create a big disturbance and a big pileup on the speedway.
It's amazing. Got to take your hands off the wheel, or one hand off the wheel, to signal at 120 miles an hour going through the corner. And there again, Eddie Bierswall doesn't make contact with the wall, but look at the right front, Jerry. Looks as though he has a problem there with the right front, might be totally on the rim here.
Well, you know, that can happen, and it's happened to a lot of drivers at short tracks where the brakes, we mentioned earlier, Richard Petty's case, where the brakes get so hot they absolutely will melt the bead on the tire, where the tire attaches to the wheel. That will separate and the tire will blow, as now Bierswall comes down pit road.
Roger Hamby and the crew, Eddie's dad, Don Bierswall.
And they will have to lift the car up. The cars have a very small clearance to the ground. They will put a jack under the car and take that right front tire, what's left of it, off, as Rusty Wallace continues to lead here at Martinsville.
Now, unlike the super speedways, where they run a safety inner tire, or a protective inner liner, if you will, they don't use that here on the short tracks because, in comparison, the speeds here are well down from the 220s of a Talladega or Daytona.
That's true. They do a little bit different kind of tire assessment here. Here is Kyle Petty, and Richard Petty, his dad, loops it around. Trouble for Richard Petty again, and that right rear tire is on the rim, and that mangled STP Chevrolet, he's really having his trouble.
Kyle Petty was running up in the third spot there. There is no caution flag. They'll keep the field under green. Phil Good going to the inside of Richard Petty, and the STP Pontiac limping its way around. Problem here was it came off the corner, the incident did, so Richard could not make an immediate entree onto pit road. He's going to have to nurse this car back around the racetrack before Dale Inman and the crew can go to work on it.
Richard Petty, who said had won 15 times here, his last win at Martinsville came back in 1979. The last year he won the Winston Cup Championship.
Moving inside of the Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile of Terry Labonte, there's the Aluguard Pontiac, the race leader. That's Rusty Wallace, St. Louis, Missouri native, or Fenton, if you will, just outside of town.
There's Richard Petty's, there's Dale Inman kneeling beside the car, looking in the front end of the car, looking at that brake assembly area. He knows the brakes have been so hot. He was sort of taking an eye at those brake shoes to see how much, or brake pads, I should say, on the disc brake on the front of the car to see how much brake is actually left. Richard has had a rough afternoon.
Meanwhile, that's the battle for the lead. The blue car, the 27, and the yellow and white Levi Garrett car, Jeff Bodine. Bodine wants to make a bid for the lead. We look at it from the rear window of Eddie Bierswall's car. Eddie's right ahead of him, and he could be a factor right here as they split him on either side. And
Bierswall is the pick in that sandwich. He's the meat in the sandwich in turn 3, and they slide by him. Now there's Phil Good in front of him, and Jeff Bodine was able to outdive Wallace, but Wallace not going to give it up, trying to make a move, but not the strength that Bodine has in his Levi Garrett Chevrolet.
Bodine leads. Second spot belongs to Rusty Wallace, hounding him away. Third is Harry Gant, the Skull Bandit in the picture. Fourth is Kyle Petty. Fifth is Ricky Rudd. Sixth, and a good run for Richmond's Tommy Ellis. Seventh is Bobby Allison. Neil Bonnet runs in the 8th spot. Ninth is Dave Marcus, and 10th is Tim Richmond. 11th, the last car on the lead lap, is Kenny Schrader. One lap down, Terry Labonte, Joe Ruttman, Darrell Waltrip, and Bill Elliott as we continue here at Martinsville. We're under caution at Martinsville. Dick Berggren is on pit road.
Here's your leader, Jeff Bodine, first one in the pits. The car he's driving is called Hound Dog. In fact, they've even got that written on the side panel of the automobile. They call it Hound Dog because it used to have flared fenders, and it sort of looked like an old hound dog's ears. But they just changed the right side tires on Hound Dog, and boy, these guys are highly motivated. They are very, very fast on this pit stop, working on the left side tires now. This will be a 4-tire change for almost everybody. Earnhardt beats Bodine out with a 2-tire change, and Rusty Wallace beats Jeff Bodine out as well. And does Ricky Rudd. Bodine will go out in 3rd position.
The 8th caution of the afternoon for this reason here in turn 3.
Here is Kenny Schrader and Joe Ruttman getting together in turn 3, pinching Jerry Cranmer and Harry Gant out on the inside. Both those cars will continue now as Schrader's car gets across the curbing and onto the grass area. The Red Baron's pizza car now makes an entry toward pit road, but that's the reason for the yellow flag. Again, Schrader and Ruttman involved in turn 3.
Rusty Wallace leads. Jeff Bodine is second. Harry Gant third. Kyle Petty is fourth. Ricky Rudd is fifth. And still Tommy Ellis on the lead lap. And sixth is on the restart. Wallace quickly beats everybody off turn number 2.
And the field jammed in very tightly. We'll see some fender bamming and framming now as they begin to work their way toward the front. Laps are winding down here as Rusty Wallace trying to pick up where he left off early in the year when he won at Bristol. The only win in his career at 71 Winston Cup starts. This is his 91st start today. He would like to pick up win number 2 if he could.
Rusty Wallace has a car length of an advantage on the number 5 machine of Jeff Bodine.
And Wallace really getting the bite off the corners. He pulls Bodine some 4 car lengths. Barry Dodson and Harold Elliott, Jimmy Maycar and the crew have put that car and dialed it in, and Wallace apparently running awfully well right now.
At this point, just 6 cars on the lead lap. But they're all well within shouting distance of the hunt. Good 5th and 6th place battle between Kyle Petty and Ricky Rudd. They're nose to tail right there, pivoting through your screen. Neil Bonnet, car number 12. He is no longer on the lead lap, though running among the race leaders. They're still Rusty Wallace and Jeff Bodine.
Field still single file. About the only way to get around someone here is just about to go through them. The track gets really slippery up high. You have to stay on the inside on that concrete apron you see there in the corners as Bodine trying to get around. But here's the battle for 5th and 6th spot. That's Kyle Petty, the Sitco 711 car, and Ricky Rudd trying to get by. Battle for 5th and 6th spot.
You see Kyle signaling through the window. He was waving something at someone, signaling Ricky Rudd possibly behind him.
And a little bit of bumper tag here as they exchange a little bit of paint here on the front stretch. Not much room for error here as they try to work their way. Rudd trying to get around Kyle Petty, but Petty trying to hold on to 5th spot. They're in a battle for position and for place in the race.
The car behind them, Darrell Waltrip, the 11, no longer on the lead lap. These 2 cars, though, Kyle Petty in the 7 and Ricky Rudd in the 15, couple of Fords battling off turn number 2.
And down the back straightaway they come as Ricky Rudd now moves in on the rear deck of Kyle Petty. He may try him up high, and Petty hugs the inside groove.
Back to the stripe again with race traffic now in front of them. Jimmy Hensley from Ridgeway, Virginia, driving the Elmo Langley machine this weekend.
And really, they pop each other coming out of turn 2 and up the back straightaway. Here is Rudd on the inside trying to make a new
bang.
Kyle Petty taps him and they spin. Rudd tags the outside retaining wall. He comes to rest in turn 3 with a demolished Motorcraft Ford.
Unbelievable. The battle for 5th and 6th place. Ricky Rudd ends up in the wall, and that car's not going anywhere the rest of this day.
What a disappointment for Rudd. He and Kyle Petty racing for position. Here's Kyle Petty exiting pit road after getting service from the Wood brothers, and they were really racing for position there and exchanging sheet metal, beating and battering and bumping, and it looks like Ricky Rudd got the short end of the stick on that deal.
We'll get another look at it here in just a second or so as the safety crew hooks up to the Bud Moore Motorcraft Ford. Watch it here. They're just coming off turn number 2, Jerry. Rudd has the inside of Kyle Petty.
And Ricky Rudd now tries to get on the inside. Petty nudges Rudd a little bit as those cars scrape sheet metal. Rudd tries to get the car straightened, but it slides sideways, pops the outside retaining wall with the left front, then the left rear, the left front again. It comes to rest flush against that concrete wall up in turn 3 as the fans get a bird's eye view of what a serious accident can take place on a short track.
Tempers are short here at Martinsville, Virginia, and there's lots more racing yet to go. The Goodies 500 continues with Rusty Wallace leading and Ricky Rudd out for the day. Getting set to go back to green flag racing here at Martinsville. Rusty Wallace still leads. Again, good pit work. Dick Berggren is with crew chief Barry Dodson.
Well, Barry Dodson, you have consistently gotten your guy out of the pits first of the leaders. Have you now got enough fuel and tires to go all the way?
Well, it's close, you know. We'll figure when they start back. We'll see how many cautions they run. We get to where we don't need fuel, we're not going to put it in because the car will run quicker without it. We're in pretty good shape.
How about the car? Have you still got brakes, Barry?
Yeah.
Have you got enough brakes?
Well, old Samson's done a good job, and when you got a good handling car, you know, it keeps brakes on it. I think we're okay.
Samson is the car that Rusty Wallace is driving today. That was the very first downsized Winston Cup car built in 1981. It is the oldest car on the Winston Cup circuit, and right now, it's leading.
That's the car that Rusty Wallace won with April 6th up at Bristol in the Valleydale 500, and the car that Tim Richmond won many poles with over the years in the Blue Max team.
Let's check in quickly at the Levi Garrett pits with Jeff Bodine's crew chief Gary Nelson. Dick Berggren, what does he have to say?
Well, Gary, you've run up front all day with Jeff Bodine. Is this going to be your last pit stop?
No, we've got one more scheduled stop before the finish.
How is the car running? Do you still have brakes?
Everything seems to be good. The brakes are good. We're still being awful cautious with everything because this is such an endurance race. This is a stretch that gets the ones that are running too hard right here.
I'll tell you, we've seen a number of races this year. One on pit road. Dale Earnhardt earlier in the season winning a race at North Wilkesboro by virtue of pit stops. We'll keep you updated on that as the day continues. But there again, the Alley-Guard Pontiac. Rusty Wallace in front. Joe Ruttman trailing him right through, though Ruttman, the green car, is not on the lead lap. The only cars on the lead lap are Wallace, the leader, the 5 for Jeff Bodine, Tommy Ellis in the 18, the 33 of Harry Gant, and Kyle Petty in car number 7. Ricky Rudd, of course, out of the event. If you're just joining us along the way, he and Kyle Petty involved in an accident going up into turn number 3 just a few laps ago, and that brought the end to a fine afternoon for Ricky Rudd as he was running with the leaders. Dick Berggren has caught up with that Virginia driver. Dick?
It had been a really good run for you, Ricky. What happened? What put you in the wall?
Well, the idiot driving the 7-Eleven car hit me in the right rear quarter panel, turned me right into the wall. He bumped me twice. The third time, he just turned me around, head on into the wall. So, you know, I don't know where he gets his driving lessons from, but it must be figure 8 racing.
Ricky Rudd, obviously very unhappy with Kyle Petty. He's sitting here behind the wall. His car is very heavily damaged, just a few feet away from him.
Mincing no words at all. His wife Linda alongside.
Well, visibly upset. Of course, that's the car he won with at Martinsville earlier in the year, and the car he was a dominant force with at Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway a few weeks ago prior to coming to contact with that guardrail up there. But that car looks like it will be towed to pasture down at the Budmore stable and forgotten about for the future.
That's the battle for the lead right there. Rusty Wallace, the 27, the 5 car for Jeff Bodine. Laps are winding down here at Martinsville. They're trailing J.D. McDuffie's machine. They have gone past it and now trail right behind Jimmy Hensley. Jimmy from just up the road a piece in Ridgeway, Virginia. A couple, 3-4 miles. Fine Busch Grand National Series driver for NASCAR. He missed the title by just a couple of points a year ago.
And Jimmy Hensley has won here at his home track back in 1972 in a Busch Grand National car, but now making a start. He's had a couple of starts in Winston Cup cars, particularly at this track. But Rusty Wallace now trying to hold off Jeff Bodine, and Bodine will try to worry him a little bit. There's a battle back in the pack with Neil Bonnet, Bill Elliott, and Dave Marcus as they go around the Eddie Bierswell car.
Those cars are battling for position. Although they are a lap down, they are battling for position on the racetrack. And you see Dave Marcus waving, and there's caution on the speedway. Dave Marcus indicating some debris on the racetrack. Let's see if we can find it. But Dave saw it. Now the NASCAR officials, Harold Kinder, putting out the caution for the 11th time today. And we are under caution. It is a beer can. A beer can or a soft drink can. You wonder why somebody would do something like that.
What a shame that is. You know, that could cause a tire to be cut down and some car to go in the wall. And I'm sure that probably some fans up there, you know, just don't realize how serious that can actually be. Now, pit road gets very busy. Could be the last stop of the day. Could be very, very important. And we understand that Robin Pemberton has moved into the Levi Garrett crew. He's the crew chief for the Raymock Nationwide team of Morgan Shepherd. And that car has exited, and now he will be helping to change tires in the Jeff Bodine pits.
So the race is on pit road as well as it is on the speedway. Neil Bonnet peeling away in the Budweiser Chevrolet. Let's see among the leaders. They're both down and away at the same time, but Jeff Bodine this time beats Rusty Wallace off pit road. Let's go to the Rusty Wallace pit area. Dick Berggren is with Harold Elliott.
Well, I'm with Harold Elliott. You build the engines for Rusty Wallace, but you're also part of the pit stops. Now, you guys have been consistently beating Bodine all day. What have you been doing to do the pit stops so fast, Harold?
Well, we've had the fastest pit crew all year. It's just a shame we're not leading that pit crew race. We beat those guys all year. It was just we've had problems qualifying the top 10, and I think we've been right up there. But we got a good crew. They're fast.
Yeah, they sure are. They've consistently got the 27 out ahead of everybody else all afternoon here at Martinsville, and it may spell the difference between victory and second spot.
Harold Elliott is the team manager for that Blue Max team for the car number of Rusty Wallace, and you know he has been involved with a number of championship teams earlier. He's the engine builder. He was the engine builder for Cale Yarborough back in 1978 when he won the championship, and as well for Darrell Waltrip at Junior Johnson back in 1981 when he won his first Winston Cup title.
There you see Dale Earnhardt, the yellow and blue car. He's to the inside of the race leaders. Earnhardt is not on the lead lap, actually is a number of laps down after those unscheduled pit stops of earlier in the day. The leader is Jeff Bodine. This time it was his crew. that beat the Rusty Wallace crew on pit road. Harry Gant still there in the 3rd position. Kyle Petty running in 4th. Tommy Ellis, a super run for the driver from Richmond, Virginia. He's in the 5th spot. And we are going back to green here at Martinsville, and quickly this time Bodine takes advantage and scoots out through traffic, and he had hoped to keep Earnhardt between himself and Rusty Wallace, but Wallace now disposes of Earnhardt on a nice inside move.
And Dale Earnhardt now being shown approximately 6 laps down the leaders, and he will not be a factor as far as the victory is concerned at this point in time, but he will be a factor because he is in front of some of the cars in the lead lap like Harry Gant and Tommy Ellis.
Kyle Petty in there as well in the lead lap, but none of those cars, those 3, not nearly up to those front 2 of Bodine and Rusty Wallace. Bobby Allison can't quite keep the car on the low side of the racetrack. And Tommy Ellis dropping back just a bit. Word from his pit is that they're having some overheating problems today, but Tommy's had a super run, and right there, car number 18 still toiling on the racetrack, trying to pick up a fine, what is now a top 5 finish.
You got to give a call to Tommy Ellis out of Richmond, Virginia. He has won here on this track in the past in Busch Grand National competition. In fact, last fall he led almost every lap of a race here in Busch Grand Nationals and took the checkered flag. So Ellis having a pretty good run, would like to get a top 5 finish.
Winding down towards the concluding laps here at Martinsville, it looks as though Jeff Bodine in the 5 machine and the Pontiac of Rusty Wallace, car 27, will be the 2 to shoot it out. You can't count out Harry Gant. He's there, and Tim Richmond spins. Tim Richmond with a problem in turn number 2, and caution is on the speedway. This will be the 12th caution flag of the day. Martinsville in that regard living up to its pre-race tag, and now here is where the race could be won or lost on pit road. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
Here it is. It all comes down to this. The final pit stop in the event. Bodine is in for his stop. They're up to the right side of the car to change the tires. Down pit road, Rusty Wallace also in. They're putting fuel in Wallace's car. The car is jacked up. They're putting tires on it. It will be a 4-tire change for Bodine. Rusty Wallace up pit road, still sitting in his pit. Well, Rusty Wallace left side just now going up. Bodine's crew a little bit ahead of Rusty Wallace on this pit stop, but Wallace is down already. Wallace out. Wallace has beaten Bodine out of the pits yet again. Bodine right out behind Wallace.
Did you see the reaction from the Wallace crew?
I mean, Todd Parrott, Jimmy Maycar, Barry Dodson, and the crew were celebrating, and there's Robin Pemberton with a Nationwide shirt on, the crew chief that had come over to help his old friend Gary Nelson in changing those front tires on Jeff Bodine's car, but it wasn't quite enough as Wallace beat him off pit road.
You saw the dejection there. Pemberton and the Gary Nelson efforts did beat Wallace off pit road on the previous pit stop, but not this time. So we're winding down to the final laps here. Can Rusty Wallace hold off Jeff Bodine? Can Bodine make the pass? And you wonder how it would have worked the other way around. Harry Gant back there in 3rd spot, well within shouting distance. Just a handful of laps remaining here at Martinsville, and it's on the restart. Rusty Wallace with a quick jump to the inside groove.
And Wallace will hug that inside groove against that curbing and try to keep anyone from getting beneath him.
Just a handful of laps remaining. 3 cars battling for the win. Wallace, Bodine, and Gant will take you to the checkered flag as soon as we return to Martinsville and the final laps of the Goodies 500. Back at Martinsville, Virginia, the waning laps of the Goodies 500. Still Rusty Wallace in the Alley-Guard Pontiac, car number 27, and Jeff Bodine. There's your 3rd place runner, car 33, Harry Gant. Those front 3 cars are the only 3 on the lead lap. Everyone else at least a lap in arrears. What do you think, Jerry Punch? Can Rusty Wallace hold off Bodine? Jeff's been awfully strong today.
Well, he has. Harry Gant slips a little bit coming out of 4. We see a little smoke out of his car. They go by the Buddy Arrington car, and you see Rusty Wallace really hugging that low groove almost on the curb. He has to be very careful not to bump that curb. The car could jump across the curb. He could scrape it, cut a tire down, and his day could be over. But if he hugs that inside groove, I don't foresee Bodine having a shot to get around him on the inside, and I'm not sure Bodine has the horsepower to go by him on the outside.
Closing in on 10 laps to go here. Beautiful sun-bathed, sun-drenched crowd here in Martinsville, Virginia. Couldn't put another person in here with a shoehorn today.
They're saying over 38,000 would be a record crowd here, and 2 drivers who are excellent on the short tracks. Bodine, who cut his teeth in the modified ranks up in New England out of Chemung, New York, as we see the 10 laps to go now. And the ASA competitor, the all-pro driver out of Fenton, Missouri, over 200 short track wins to his credit, Rusty Wallace. He's trying to pick up only the 2nd Pontiac victory of the season in that same car. He won at Bristol back in April in Sampson, the car he's driving today.
9 laps to go as they make their way off turn number 4. The attrition rate has not nearly been what we'd expected today. Only Tommy Ellis, Ricky Rudd, Morgan Shepherd, and Mike Skinner among the 30 cars who started will not, at least for the moment, be around to see the finish.
Well, still 26 cars trying to make their way to the checkered flag, so a lot of lap traffic, so anything could happen. Another caution flag. Well, I think both drivers may try to finish it out here, but anything can happen. As they said, it's not over till it's over, and Rusty Wallace now trying to hold off Jeff Bodine, who's right there on his bumper, and Harry Gant, all 3 of those cars on the lead lap.
Thank you, Yogi.
And we see Darrell Waltrip back there, Eli, and he's a lap down, but he's hanging on. And that all-important Winston Cup point battle, Waltrip looks like he will get the best finish of the 3 that are in that battle. The other 2 being, of course, Tim Richmond and Dale Earnhardt.
The leaders going past Eddie Beerswall. They're closing in on the J.D. McDuffie car now. Wallace and Bodine.
You've got to believe the smiles are on the faces of Barry Dotson and Harold Elliott, Jimmy Maycar, and all that Aluguard crew. They know that pit stop was critical to put their driver up front. The cars appear essentially equal. They're just about equal coming off the corners. A little bit of tire smoke off of the Aluguard car, but no one really has an advantage. About a car length or 2, they're staying pretty well consistently separated by a half a car length or so. But it's whoever won that battle in the pits that may have a shot at victory.
You see the green car, Harry Gant. Still a couple, 3-4 car lengths down to the front twosome.
And Gant has not won at all this year. His last win almost a year ago, October of 1985 at North Wilkesboro. Here again, his last win for the Skull Bandit. He would like to win here. In fact, Gant has won here before, twice at Martinsville, but he has never won the Goody's 500.
Going past Jerry Cranmer, and there are 4 laps remaining.
And Rusty Wallace has got to be concentrating now to keep that car on the inside groove. He's got to be very careful. As we said, only 4 cars have exited. 26 cars still in the race, so a lot of lap traffic. He's got to make sure he doesn't get tangled up in some of that lap traffic as the laps wind down.
Harold Kinder leaning over that flag stand with the indication of the laps remaining. He's also working that blue passing flag. He signals that to the slower cars to alert them that the leaders, the quicker cars, are coming up from the rear. Going past Jimmy Hensley again.
And Rusty Wallace using all that lap traffic as a pick, trying to peel off around those lap cars and put as much distance between himself and Jeff Bodine as possible.
Bodine closes, as he does right there, going into the corners. But he just can't quite hang with coming off the turns. And if you don't get off the turns well and set yourself up for a pass on the straightaway, well, that's basically the story here. The 200 yards coming off turn 2, and those 200 yards coming off turn 4. That's where you'd like to pass, and now traffic a factor with the white flag being displayed. 1 lap to go. Bodine's going to try to the outside, but he can't quite draw along with Rusty Wallace.
Heavy lap traffic in front of the lead 2 cars. There's Alan Kulwicki up there, but he will move to the inside, and Rusty Wallace will try to hold off Jeff Bodine as they run that final lap.
Off turn number 4 with race traffic ahead. Bodine will not likely have a chance to make a move, and it is Rusty Wallace taking the checkered flag here at Martinsville. The 2nd win of the Winston Cup season for the Aluguard Racing Team, the Blue Max folks. And it was done with all due respect to Rusty Wallace, who there will get the accolades from Jeff Bodine. It was done on pit road.
I tell you, Jimmy Maycar, Todd Parrott, Barry Dotson, the crew down there, of course, Harold Elliott, they have got to feel awfully good about putting their driver in victory lane. They were as much a part of that as was Rusty Wallace.
From the beautiful Martinsville Speedway, even more beautiful right now for Rusty Wallace, we head to victory lane next. The Aluguard Racing Team pushing Rusty Wallace and the Pontiac on towards victory lane for their 2nd win of this 1986 racing season. And that pit crew, as much as anyone, responsible for the victory today. Let's join Dick Berggren with Rusty Wallace.
Well, Rusty Wallace, quite a finish. The last 10 or 15 laps, you surely must have felt Jeff Bodine breathing on you.
Hey, no doubt. I can see the whites in his eyes behind me. But what can I say? You know, the Blue Max Aluguard car pulled another one off. Raymond Beadle, the car owner, Aluguard, my sponsor. Barry Dotson, Jimmy Maycart, Harold Lilly, everybody, just a great effort. And we knew we could get another one. We just didn't know we could get it. We were praying to get one here at Martinsville because that's a favorite racetrack to my crew and the rest of us.
You're puffing. Are you beat up?
Well, when you talk this much, when you get out of the car, you start running out of breath, and I'm about ready to get dizzy here.
toward the end of the race, Rusty, when things were, we were watching Bodine behind you, you could have maybe run the middle of the racetrack, but you didn't. You ran out high, you ran down low. You didn't even try to defend it.
Well, you know, from the last stop there, I had a set of tires that just wasn't doing right, and I just wanted to save my brakes as I was losing the brakes. And at the very end of the day there, with 20 laps to go, my spotter, Larry Penn, he's just saying, Rusty, hold your bottom line. He can't get around outside unless you hold that bottom. So I remember when Earnhardt won the race here, and he just come to a dead stop in the center of the corners, and he'd blast off and held the 11 car back, and so that's what I did, and it worked out for me.
Your crew on the last stop surely must have given you the right set of tires, but all day they got you out ahead of everybody else.
I tell you what, it's probably my fault that we're not leaving Ingersoll Rand Pit Crew contest, because those guys are probably the quickest in the country, and you know, you got to qualify in the top 10 at some of the places to get in there, and some of the speedways we missed it, and that's what got us down. But I believe we got the best crew in the world, and Barry Dotson, Harold Elliott, and Jimmy Maycar, they do a great job.
And a pretty good driver, too. He's won here this afternoon, and the oldest car in competition in Winston Cup racing.
So another vintage Martinsville event, Jerry Punch. Couple of guys there with Harry Gant watching, trying to battle it out for the win.
Well, Rusty Wallace, it took him 71 starts to pick up his first win back in April up at Bristol, and it took him on his 91st start to get his second victory today. He takes home a record Goody's 500 payoff of $40,175.
Only 4 drivers who started were not around at the finish. Tommy Ellis, Ricky Rudd, Morgan Shepherd, and Mike Skinner. The average speed of the event today, 73.191 miles an hour. SETN congratulates Rusty Wallace and the Aluguard Pontiac Racing Team for their win in today's Goody's 500. SETN's Winston Cup coverage produced by Jim Wigglesworth. Director of Operations, John R. Lewis. I'm Eli Gold, reminding you that each and every week SETN brings you This Week in Motorsports, a complete look at the motorsport scene across Canada, the United States, and the world. The final running order today here in Martinsville, Rusty Wallace winning the Goody's 500, Jeff Bodine coming home in second spot. Third went to Harry Gant. Darrell Waltrip was fourth. Fifth was Joe Ruttman. Kyle Penny sixth. Ken Schrader finished seventh. Eighth was Neil Bonnet, with Dave Marcus finishing ninth and Tim Richmond coming home in the 10th spot. So following today's event, Dale Earnhardt continues to lead the Winston Cup point standings by 136 points over Tim Richmond. Darrell Waltrip is 159 points in arrears. Join us next time on SETN for coverage of the Busch Grand National Series Friedlander 200 from the Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway. For Dr. Dick Berggren and Dr. Jerry Punch, I'm Eli Gold. Thanks for joining us. So long, everybody.